guys, trust you're all doing well. Welcome back to OK Academy's e-learning program. I am Uncle Eric, your science facilitator, and in today's lesson we are going to treat ecosystem. All right, I know by now you are wondering what ecosystem is. By the end of the lesson you'll get to know what ecosystem is. All right, but before we begin, I want to ask you some questions. What are some of the members of your family? Can you tell me some of the members of your family? Yes, your father, your mother, your sister, and your brother. All of them make up your family, especially the nuclear family. Now, there are some roles they all play as members of the family. For instance, your father pays your school fees, takes care of your uniform, and so on. Your mother also cooks for you. Aside that, she does the household chores. The same thing applies to your siblings. They all have a role they play as part of the family. Can we take out one of these members and say they are not important? No, we can't, because all of them have special roles they play as members of the family. All right, now with this idea, we will be able to treat ecosystem. First, we need to understand what we mean by ecosystem. Ecosystem refers to a community and its environment. Ecosystem refers to a community and its environment. Now, when we talk about a community in science, we are not referring to the family members as we earlier said, but we are referring to all the living things found in a given area. That's what we term as a community. For instance, let us take a forest. What are some of the living things you see in a forest? Lion, tiger, you see trees, and so on. All these things you see come together to form a community. The same thing applies to environment. When we talk about environment, we are referring to the things that surround us. Okay, so ecosystem refers to a community and its environment. So simply put, community refers to all living things in a given area. I hope you've taken note of that. Environment refers to the things that surround us. These things come together to form what we call an ecosystem. Now let's look at some examples of ecosystem. First, we have a rainforest. We can consider the rainforest as an ecosystem because there are certain things that come together to form a rainforest. What are some of the things you find in a rainforest? Exactly, you find animals like the snails, you find animals like earthworm, ants, also wild animals like the lion, tiger. It means that we can term rainforest as an example of an ecosystem. Not only that, farmland, a river. What are some of the things you find in a river? Of course, we will find animals like fishes and so on. That means they are also examples of ecosystem. Lake, grassland, stream, and lastly, pond. These are just a few of the examples we can mention. Now let us look at some of the things that make up an ecosystem. We are saying that ecosystem, as we are talking about, is made up of living things and non-living things. Living things and non-living things. In other words, living can be referred to as biotic. So if you hear me saying biotic, please don't be confused. It means I'm referring to living. Non-living things can also be referred to as abiotic. All right? All right? In science, there are some terminologies that are very easy to understand. So I can ask you, what are some of the biotic factors in an ecosystem? It means I want you to tell me some of the living things in an ecosystem. Very good. Now, let us look at some of the living components in an ecosystem. If we take an ecosystem like the forest, what are some of the living things we will find in that forest? Those living things can be grouped into plants and animals. Plants like mango, cassava, mahogany. I know you can give me a whole lot of plants. And animals like lion, ant, earthworm, and so on. So if we take every ecosystem, we can find some living components, being plants and animals. Let us look at some non-living components or abiotic components of an ecosystem. For those things, they do not have life. All right, examples of such components or things that are found in such an ecosystem are rainfall, temperature, soil type, wind, sunlight, and humidity. You see, rainfall is not a living thing, yet it forms part of our ecosystem. They have a role they play. Temperature has a role it plays. Soil type, the type of soil, also plays a role in an ecosystem. Yet, all these are non-living things. Good. Let us look at the needs of every living thing. There are some things needed by every living thing in order to survive. Some of these things they need are 1. Food. Can you live without food for 1 week? I don't think so. Why? Because food plays a major role in our lives. The same thing applies to plants. They also need food as well. All right? The next one I will talk about is water. Living things cannot survive without water. We drink water just to help us gain enough energy. We also need air to breathe. It also plays a role in our lives. Sunlight just to keep us warm and to help plants prepare their own food. Note that water and some of these components help plants to also prepare their food. All right? So sunlight is also needed just to keep us warm. All right? Good. Living things also need a habitat. What is a habitat? A habitat is a living place of living organisms. In other words, a habitat is a place where living organisms live or living things live. All right? Take note of that. Now, with this ecosystem we are talking about, we can group them into 2 main parts. Because some ecosystems exist in water, others exist on land. All right? So let us look at these 2 groups of ecosystem. The first one is what we term as terrestrial ecosystem. In our previous lessons, we've talked about terrestrial animals, aquatic animals. Of course, terrestrial means something that is related to land. Okay? Now, how will we define terrestrial ecosystem? This is an ecosystem that exists on land. ecosystem that exists on land. If you don't want to use exist, you can use that can be found on land. Examples of such ecosystems that can be found on land are rainforest. You see, rainforest is nowhere near water. It is found on land. Farmland is an ecosystem, yet it is a terrestrial ecosystem. Grassland is also a terrestrial ecosystem, and so on. Another group of ecosystem is aquatic. Now, the word aqua means water, meaning this type of ecosystem is found in water bodies. All right? Examples of such ecosystems are lake, pond, river, ocean, and so on. If you look closely, you realize that all these are water bodies. And these water bodies have certain components that are found in them to form an ecosystem. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. A recap of what we did. First, we looked at what we mean by ecosystem. We also looked at some of the components of an ecosystem, examples of ecosystem, and so on. It's been a wonderful day. Thanks so much for your time and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.